What is up, everybody? We are back, as they would say by Chris Berman. Welcome to Wicked Crazy Pinfalls. We got a little tea in the house. We've got the natural Astrist and a buddy of mine, Ed Fries. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good, how are
you? Just really hurting right now. We did almost 30 cars today at work, so literally I'm sore. So if I'm a little off kilter after the last couple of weeks I've had, just bear with me a little bit. So you guys can figure out where we want to start. We got to talk about Money in the Bank. We've got Great American Bash coming up. Hell, Logan Paul just signed a deal with WWE today.
We don't have to talk about that.
I have a feeling no Bruno songs. I don't want to get copywritten for that. But, I mean, we could look at Great American Bash right now and stuff. What are you guys' expectations? I've known you guys cover it for Love Wrestling and stuff. I do for Body Slam. But let's get more into depth in this because it is coming right after the 4th, and it looks like it's shaping up to be the better of the two cards for the weekend, for the long weekend.
I mean, this card kind of just continued to grow and grow. It's up to 8 matches now. It was 6 the night when we did NXTea on Tuesday. It's now up to 8 matches.
I mean, it's a good thing, though. It's going to give you something instead of being like, there's segue promos, there's stuff to push everything going. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they progress after this, considering the fact that you have a match that a lot of people want to see.
There's 2 of them on here that I really want to see.
Which one?
I mean, Carmelo Hayes versus Grayson Waller is going to be an absolute show stealer. Like, those 2 are going to put on a clinic of this is how you steal the show. It's going to remind us of Dolph Ziggler and Miz in the those days where Dolph's job was on the line, and Miz is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. That period of time. And then you've got, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, you've got Trick Williams and Wesley. And I said it on Tuesday night. I'm really excited to see what Wesley can do on his own in a big situation. And he's going to carry, I don't want to say carry Trick Williams, but he's got to lead that match because Trick is still getting used to the ropes. He's a younger wrestler who's not quite done it as long as Wes has done it. And this is going to be a sink or swim moment for the 2 of them. And I love the fact that they're giving him this opportunity, and they didn't just immediately throw him into a tag team. They didn't immediately make him be friends with somebody. It was like, no, I'm mad at the world, and I'm going to prove that I'm as good as I need to be to stay here for the long haul.
I mean, that makes perfect sense considering the fact that how they were trying to set him up anyways to begin with after the split, because they wanted him to be progressively by himself. But for me, what I saw with Wes is just, because to me, that match with Wes and Trick, like you said, is curiosity in its best. You want to know how they are going to be on their own. But I think people also compared Trick a little bit for body and size to, as much as I don't want to say this, is to R-Truth, just because of the athleticism, what he can do in the ring and stuff as of right now. But I want to see Wes be that pit bull. I mean, he could be, if done right, he could be a very young AJ Styles if he's done right.
I mean, that promo killed it the other night where he started to cry and he let himself be emotional and he just went full into himself and into his feelings. And he showed us that men are allowed to cry and that it's okay to give into the pressure and the emotion and to be able to have people around you that want to support you. And then the perfect way of Trick Williams to do it, where he didn't, and this is the best part of this, the easiest shot in the world to take was to make fun of him for crying. And they chose to go a different route with it. I mean, yeah, he made the statement, oh, look at you, you're crying. But then he immediately went in and dug into, but you're the reason why he's gone. Why aren't you the bad friend? Why aren't you the problem? And he immediately made it about something other than just a guy crying. And in a Vince McMahon run promotion, to have a man crying on television and not be looked at as a crybaby is such a fresh look at how something can be developed.
I mean, look at what they did with one of D'Angelo's lackeys. They basically made him, just killed him off this past week. So
he's sleeping with the bitches.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's like they're understanding how these releases are now impacting the storyline, and they're trying to pivot a little bit to make sense, though. That's the interesting part. But the other thing is that everybody also is heavily into his Breaker and Grimes. I mean, for me, when they announced this, I was like, why didn't this happen sooner? I mean, Grimes should have had this title a long time ago, or a shot at this long time ago, especially in the black and gold brand. And he hasn't. And now he's killing it right now. And I'm so excited for him because of the fact that it's well overdue.
Yeah, and I keep thinking also, like, they haven't added Mandy and Nikita, because I'm thinking they're probably going to do a rematch somehow, and that's when Ed's going to die. But that's another story for a different date. But I know he's looking forward to that one too. But no, I'm also excited for Toxic Attraction and Roxanne and Cora, because I'm a big Roxy fan. So even having her in this type of title match, it's not how I wanted it to be, how I pictured it to begin with, but it's a title match, so I wouldn't mind her winning this one, of course. And Trick and Wesley's another one I'm really looking forward to out of everything.
You got the Roxy flag all high and mighty up there. That's the best part of it all, because when you're a good fan, you know exactly where you wanted them to go.
And
like
the fact that they... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like, for example, Bad Blood, I'm trying to tote your boss to have him go up to Canada to face Parrish. If nobody knows, is that the franchise Bad Blood has announced in November that he is retiring from professional wrestling. So that is one of the matches I would love to see in Love Wrestling do. Two good champions, two guys who are at their highest caliber, and it would be great.
Yeah. But getting back to, Roxanne and the things that they've done, I mean, how different this NXT is to NXT back in gold and anything else. Remember how long it took for Keith Lee to get traction? Remember how long it took for Keith Lee to get on television?
Yeah.
Roxanne was officially signed, quote unquote, officially signed and announced less than a month before she made her television debut. When she came on and had her first vignette and then had a promo segment to announce her in-ring debut the next week, she then got into a segment to have her in-ring debut that week. Mm-hmm. Then she goes ahead and wins the breakout tournament to earn the number one contendership for the women's championship when she chooses. And now she's already faced Mandy Rose. She's going for these tag team titles, and she still has the contract opportunity in the back pocket. And all of that's happened in what? 2 months?
Yeah. It's happened really fast. You muted yourself for a second.
I had to cough. But there are some sleeper hits on this card too. I mean, Wendy Chu versus Tiffany Stratton is a match.
So much fun.
Astrid is Wendy Chu. She has the Wendy Chu lifestyle. She takes naps before NXT, the whole nine. But those are two underrated in-ring talents. Like, people forget, Wendy Chu is Mei Ying. Like, the same character who is Mei Ying and did all of that amazing work as Mei Ying is the same person embodying this Wendy Chu character. And Tiffany Stratton has probably been the most impressive female competitor to just grow and grow and grow with every opportunity that they give her.
She's been definitely the most improved female wrestler on their roster as of right now. That's why they're pushing her so hard right now with all these opportunities and stuff. I mean, her with Waller was just gold mine right there, because they both can act like that superficial kind of character where they're just like, mommy and daddy, help me out.
And I still want that. I want more of that. Like, we got a little taste of it. I want more of it, because I think that's a really interesting well for the two of them, because they don't have to be a couple. They can just be people that connect with each other and then go ahead and be on their own different wavelengths and intermingle from time to time.
As lovely as enough, and I wanted Astrist to give me her 2 cents on this. It kind of reminds me with them to Team Little Big a little bit, if everybody remembers that. Just like two different people, different styles, different pairings, and they just mesh and becomes really good friends. That's the way Stratus and Waller seem like they're doing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's very similar. I think the only difference will be like towards the end they wanted Team Little Big to kind of have a little bit more than that. But I like how they have like that friendship in the forefront of them as a team more than anything. I feel like doesn't happen often in wrestling with a male and a female, and it should happen because I know that friendships can happen. Not everything has to be romantic in some way, shape, or form. And it's nice to see them being a little bit different, that they're not connected in that way, though.
Yeah, it's interesting because it could also progress into something different if there's a mixed tag or anything like that. It seems to me the projection they want her to be is in Mandy's spot. Talking about Stratton, I think it's too early. She does have that Charlotte type athletic pedigree that a lot of people I talk to and see about it, and I agree with it. It's just you don't want to pull the trigger too early on that. Whereas you got Mandy holding the title on lock, and then you have Roxy giving the opportunity, like a Money in the Bank cash in. It's just you have to pick the right opponent, and they've gone through every single woman. They just went through Nikita Lyons this past week. It doesn't make sense to make that move now. Who are they going to go? They're going to throw Lash Legend in next in front of Mandy until Roxy decides they talk to Roxy about play. So
I mean, more importantly, once they pull the trigger and put Roxy over and have her hold that championship, they've got to flip a couple of those women because they don't have a super deep and competent heel division in their women's division right now. Because you have Mandy and Toxic Attraction at the top. You have Tiffany Stratton not too far behind them. And then you really run into a dry spell of Elektra Lopez, whom they've been hot and cold on for the past little while. Lash Legend, who I don't feel is ready in the ring, but she can carry it on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And then nobody else, really, like Kiana James. So like I wouldn't mind seeing an Indy Hartwell heel turn and having Indy be one of those, top 4 or 5 and let her carry a little bit of time while you get these girls ready, while you get a Lash Legend ready, while you get a Nikita Lyons ready. Because I think you could do Nikita versus Roxy as kind of a babyface heel thing and let Nikita kind of be a little bit heelish. Get Tiffany Stratton ready and let Roxy start running through some of them and then bring in some other names. I mean, they just signed, what is her name? Valentina Florida? One of the UFC fighters, one of the bantamweight UFC champions. From the UFC just signed yesterday.
Valerie Lueras, I guess is how you say it. I don't know.
Yeah. The first Cuban American WWE competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like you've got more people coming in, and I think you could still bring a couple down from the main roster. I wouldn't be surprised to see Natalya make another appearance, especially if Roxy's on top. I wouldn't be surprised to see. I'll say it. It's crazy. It's crazy because it's not the right crowd to do it with. What if we saw Nikki Bella?
That's
if you got Roxy
but...
on top, what if Nikki Bella comes back?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because there's one name that nobody threw out because there was an interview at the junket for the WWE 2K22 game where Alexa Bliss stated that she wouldn't mind going back down to NXT to face Mandy for the NXT title, considering the fact that the NXT title is the only title she does not have. Mm-hmm. And to her, that is the crown jewel of crown jewels because, I mean, think about it. That's the one thing her and Becky don't have. They could say they have every title. Becky doesn't have the tag team belts. But still, you could say, that's one title they both don't have. So I would love to see Alexa down there. She could stay local for a while, go do her Disney thing and have fun down there and stuff in Florida and run it till Roxy's there. And you have a freaking awesome matchup for a takeover, Roxy versus Alexa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could even run that while Mandy's still champion. I mean, you could run Mandy Rose versus Alexa Bliss in a heartbeat.
It's just a question on if they're going to pull it or not. That's what's the deal. They won't, though, but it almost seems like Alexa's kind of toting the line saying, hey, you know, I want this. Give me this opportunity.
I think Alexa's come under fire. And I mean, I guess we can kind of throw this in as we're talking about stuff like this. There's been a lot of people coming under fire that Alexa's not showing the same in-ring desire, I guess I'd say. You know, there's a lot of people questioning whether Alexa Bliss still wants to be here after getting married to Ryan Cabrera, to enjoying her honeymoon, to all the time off she had before the wedding. And she's come back, and a lot of people have said that she's been lackluster. I've not seen it. I don't agree with that point of view, but it's something to be said that, you know, it's a topic of discussion.
Well, that's why I threw the idea of her going to NXT, because maybe it'll light the fire back into it. You know, that way it gives her something else different than fighting with Liv or anything like that. So we'll get towards the Money in the Bank on that. That could be an interesting twist of using the Money in the Bank briefcase, because it's always taking a shot at the main roster, and might as well see if someone decides to go after the NXT title for once.
I mean, which one is it? Charlotte won the Rumble.
Yeah, Charlotte did it.
So, I mean, that's the Rumble, but still, I mean, there is precedence for doing it. My other question is, if we're talking about main roster talent coming down, I know it's crazy. What about Bayley?
I was already thinking that.
They've not pulled the trigger on bringing her back to main roster yet. What if Triple H is backstage pleading to get her to come down for a short run in NXT?
It would put more eyes on NXT anyways, because the casual fan who've already related to her and follow her and stuff on social media and stuff will guide that, and that'll boost the ratings. As much as WWE freaking says we do not care about ratings, they care about ratings because it gives them a barometer of where things are going.
They care about ratings for Raw or SmackDown. I don't think they care if anybody watches NXT.
But USA does. That's for sure.
I don't see. Here's the thing. I think USA wants Raw, and they're willing to have NXT on the air too, if it means they can have both Miz and Mrs. and Raw. Because people forget, Miz and Mrs. gets really good ratings, and it's a fun show that a lot of different demographics watch. So it hits all the numbers that those people want, and especially in that late of a time slot that they run it at Monday nights after Raw.
Yeah.
So I think USA'd be willing to sacrifice the 600 people that watch NXT on a weekly basis. And by the way, that's a consistent number. That number almost never changes. It's somewhere between 450 and 700 every week. Whereas that AEW number, especially on Friday nights, jumps around a lot. That Wednesday night number is not stable either.
Just to go show you that some things always change, but hey, some things stay the same. I mean, especially when it comes to numbers and stuff.
Well, I mean, you also, and there's something to be said, and you know, the AEW fan will say it, so I'll say it too. There's something to be said about NXT and their 50-plus audience. That it's a lot of older people who have been stuck in their ways, who enjoy watching the WWE product because it's the WWE product, and they don't want to learn new things. But in that same respect, I'd say, but you've convinced those same 600 people to continue watching Braun Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, Joe Gacy, Nikita Lyons, Mandy Rose, Tiffany Stratton, Wendy Chu, and all of these.
Wagner.
I don't know if anybody watches the Von Wagner matches. We might
have no choice but to watch it.
We did Let's Give Divas a chance. We may have to have a hashtag, Let's Give Vaughn a chance, to make sure people actually watch his matches, because I think it's a potty break match for me when it comes up on NXT.
Well, we need that Boston boy to hold that title in NXT, I can tell you that much, and I'm not talking about the North American Championship.
I don't know. I mean, the A champion holding that A championship, it sits with me. Like, that thing could main event shows.
No, it could.
Honestly, on this show, I wouldn't care if Grayson Waller and Carmelo Hayes was the main event over Braun Breaker and Cameron Grimes. Because while the beginning of that feud for Cameron Grimes and Braun Breaker was fantastic, it died a death for a week and a half. And then the barely got saved by that promo package, that face-to-face that they did, with Cameron Grimes almost turning heel and sitting there talking to Braun and being like, I may not be able to beat you at 100%, but now you're not 100%. And I can beat you if you're not 100%.
Yeah, and when you guys were on, and I said this too, is that it was kind of interesting in that whole face-to-face that they even mentioned of the whole thing of, I have nothing else to lose. Yeah, if you lose this title, you can be hot-shotted on either Raw or SmackDown. Hell, you might be even on SummerSlam. That kind of gave me an inkling that Grimes is going over in this match.
Yeah. And then again, that could just be Triple H stirring the pot, because everybody knows Triple H came back this week. This was the first week that Triple H was back in charge. He was back. He was back. You know what, though? People say thank God. Shawn Michaels did a really good job since Triple H has been out, because everybody freaked out and panicked when they heard that Vince McMahon and co. were taking over NXT 2.0 when Triple H went down. And for the most part, there's been little to no difference between 2.0 from the black and gold era, other than pushing new stars, to now.
Well, I'm saying thank God, because at least Sean did an amazing job.
He did.
That's not disputing that. But with Hunter in the background with Sean, that's like it's like Batman and Robin ready to go after the Joker. It's like, it's like two people that could work on something and work hard on it, and it puts a little load off of Sean also.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the whole show and all this stuff all over on him. So it makes perfect sense that Hunter, which I'm gonna throw this just because me and Ed are on a New England boy, and then Rice yourself, an Nashua man, literally helping out when his wife is just the CEO right now and doing things, and it would help them to do some other good. I mean, it might even have Hunter push up a little more and do some of the Raw creative if Vince is not around. And can you picture a Triple H Raw? Oh my God.
Okay, take over SmackDown. SmackDown has been a little bit more crappy than Raw, though. At least for me.
The problem with when we talk about, and I love the idea, and it may be a topic for another day, because I think it's a much broader topic. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between being able to do what you want and run NXT how you want, and having to run Raw or SmackDown that same way. I love the idea of a Triple H-led Raw, and I love the idea of a Triple H-led SmackDown. But let's not forget that show is catered to a specific audience. That show is catered to a casual audience, and you're not going to get the same product that you get in NXT if you bring Triple H up and give him the reins to Raw. I love the idea. I want it to happen, but I just don't want people to get their hopes up that should something happen to Vince ever, that day ever come, it doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to change. I think things are going to stay the same a whole lot more than people give credit for, because you have to cater to that audience to keep that million plus. There's a reason why Raw and SmackDown have 1.2 million, 1.5 million, 1.9 million every week, and why AEW struggles. AEW markets to the hardcore wrestling fan, but there's only so many of them out there. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get to a point where you tap out the market, and there's only so high you can go. And then if you don't hit the casual market, you're not going to go any higher.
It's true, because eventually what will happen is it'll just plateau and just stay there, which WWE will get them credit for that. They're going for the younger audience that's going to grow with them, where, that audience finds AEW and it's like, oh, this is interesting. And then they just start watching them. So,
but I mean, look at the people that WWE bring in for like celebrity appearances and whatnot. You bring in people like Logan Paul. Granted, he's a crap human being, and the Japan stuff is all you need to know about that. But he reaches an entire audience of 20 plus million people minimum.
And a young audience, too, on top of it.
And it's a young audience on top of that. Yes, Ashley's right. And then Ashley can speak to this better than I can. You bring in a guy like Bad Bunny, and you put the 24/7 title on him. and you put him in a prime spot in WrestleMania, and you have him have such a great match because he's dedicated and he loves the business and he always wanted to do it, and he got the opportunity and he took it seriously, and all props to him and them for doing it. But I mean, Ashley can talk to about the millions of people that Bad Bunny can touch, that those demographics that man can hit. AEW is not pulling out those things, and that's why AEW sits between 7 to a million, maybe 1,000,001, if they pull out all the stops. CM Punk comes back, for the first time in 10 years. They barely do over 1 million. Like, they couldn't even outdo a Raw that week. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you can only do so much for a hardcore audience. If you don't cater to this casual audience, no matter what demographics you hit, no matter how many people you get in the key demo, at the end of the day, your product still won't be as enticing as WWE's, because while WWE caters to a, say, 35 to 50 plus year old audience, you know what you get to sell to those people? Luxury products.
Pretty much.
You're selling your computers, you're selling your cars, you're selling your Lexus, your Mercedes, things like that. You can't sell products like that on AEW because the people watching AEW are 18 to 35, which is great. You can sell everything else under the sun to them. But you're not going to be able to sell those high-priced markets. And while you want to win the 18 to 35, the 50-plus market is really important too. They spend so much money because they have less to do with their money.
Yeah, the baby boomers. Hey, let's call it as that. My mom was a baby boomer. I could tell you that much. And literally, when she retired, she literally bought a brand new car. It's ridiculous. It's positive and negative because of the fact that it's a negative thing because you have a core audience that some companies rely on, which WWE seems like they want to rely on a little bit on the SmackDown side, but they're also growing with new generations. Like when my son gets into it, like when I was 4, and he grows into it and still watches it, there's somebody that could watch it for another 30 years until my grandson kicks in. I do have a grandson, and then it eclipses. The cycle never ends, though. It's fun to see it, but for me, it's like when I see NXTea, for example, and I watch the numbers on them, it hurts because it's like it's such good product and it's such a good thing. And then you watch Raw for the last, couple of months prior before the way it has been recently, and you're like, what the hell is wrong?
Yeah. No, I wanted to go back to Ed's point of the audience too, because one thing that I give WWE credit for is that, for example, when they brought in Bad Bunny, they didn't have him just in for a week. They had it for a month or so for that booking, that build up to the match, versus they'll have Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah, and then for example, but they bring in Shaq for 1 week and that's it, and just it's done. Versus if you want people to keep watching, you gotta give them that insight to keep watching, and that helps with Bad Bunny because he had I think he had the record now for the most listens for an album on Spotify alone, on the debut of his new album, and he reaches millions of people, millions. He just made a TikTok and look how many likes and followers he has in just a couple months, not even months that he did it, probably weeks.
Another name you guys haven't thrown out. And considering Cody's back, this is kind of ironic where I'm saying this name. Stephen Amell is now in a wrestling show for, I think it's Stars.
Showtime. It's Stars.
Showtime.
It's Heels, Season 2.
So, I mean, you think about it, how interesting and how he built up that match with Cody, and all of a sudden it paid off at a pay-per-view. They can do it perfectly right when it's famous people, but I scratch my head when it's certain people they're developing. It's just, it doesn't make sense. But I think now with this version of NXT, they're going back to their roots, to where it was with the black and gold a little bit, because you can see the transparency between the two if you put both of them side by side.
Yeah, this is back to we're pre-arrival at this point now. For those of us who remember the first day on the network, and I mean, I remember those first couple of days, it was binging this thing called NXT that I've heard about, that I have to watch because everybody tells me it's great and it's fantastic. And then, within that first week, we get that Arrival special. The first live wrestling on the WWE Network was NXT Arrival. And you're watching guys like Neville, and you're watching guys like Bo Dallas. But remember, you're also watching at that time a young Tyler Breeze. You're watching a young Baron Corbin. You're watching all these young stars develop and get better and get better. And you have guys like Bull Dempsey, who, they didn't pan out. And you have guys like Juice Robinson, who didn't pan out in WWE. But you know what? Bull Dempsey didn't do anything anywhere else for the most part. But Juice Robinson did. That dude took the things he learned in Florida, went to Japan, and killed it in Japan. And he's now one of the bigger stars, one of the biggest American stars in Japan, because he was willing to take his chance on himself. You look at what happened with Cody. Cody leaves the company. He bets on himself. He becomes one of the best wrestlers in Ring of Honor with, pulling in all kinds of numbers for them, allowing the all in to happen. And then that directly relates to Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona would not be doing the things Matt Cardona is doing right now if it wasn't for Cody.
Hell, I'll even throw one name that was in NXT in that era, Claudio.
Yeah. But I mean, I also think that Claudio took his time. Like Claudio's doing, he came back to AEW this weekend. And by that pop, when Claudio comes out, that pop was
priceless,
insane,
fantastic. I love how Bully puts it. He's like, "Oh, it was a nice pop," being one of the boys and just teasing the other guys, and fans railed on him. I'm like, Bully just knows how to just piss people off.
He knows how to push the buttons of the public.
But I think it's funny because that's like he explained. He's like, that's what I would have said to Claudio when I saw him backstage. When Claudio came backstage, I'd be like, "Oh, it was a nice little pop for you," and then laughed and joked and given him a hug, because that's what you do in the business apparently. And I'm like, okay, cool, that makes sense, because Bully's always fair to everybody. Like, he may say things you don't agree with, and trust me, there's a bunch of them that I don't agree with that he says. But you know what? Dude's been in the business for 20 years. He has an opinion. He's not willing to come out there and say it and say, whether you like me or you don't like me, here's my opinion, take it or leave it. He doesn't make everybody believe his point of view. He just wants to give his point of view.
He basically is very blunt about everything, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, because eventually people are not going to like when you speak the truth, and especially if you're very blunt about it.
Yeah. I just wanted, before we moved too far away from Great American Bash, I just wanted to go down the card because, like I said, it's a fantastic card. So from bottom to top, we have the tag team match for the NXT UK Championships, which I thought was going to be on a regular episode of NXT. They're throwing it on this show. So Briggs and Jensen versus Pretty Deadly. Apollo Crews versus Zion Quinn is now signed for this show. And with the rumors about Zion Quinn coming out from, I want to say it's PWI, I think it was. They put out the rumors that Zion Quinn and Sangha were being looked at as potential main roster candidates.
Oh, God.
Wendy Chu versus Tiffany Stratton. The Creed brothers versus Roderick Strong and Damon Kemp. The Diamond Mine versus Diamond Mine for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Trick Williams versus Wes Lee. Carmelo Hayes versus Grayson Waller for the North American Championship. Toxic Attractions, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane versus Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. And then the main event of Braun Breaker and Cameron Grimes for the NXT Championship. That is a solid 8-match card.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And for me, the third match that I think could steal it is that UK title match, just because of the fact that, you never know if Fallon Henley is going to be in the mix with it too. So that could be interesting.
I also think it'll be a nice dichotomy of styles there. Pretty Deadly wrestles a very interesting style, and Briggs and Jensen are very smash mouth styles. So
they're kind of like the APA a bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Less likable, but come on. Everybody loved the APA. I can't get on the board with Jensen. I for some reason I can't get on board with Jensen.
I can't just because it's their funny.
Being a New England kid, I can get on board with Josh Briggs, and baggage. Yes, he has some baggage, but you know what? I've watched that guy work just like you have for 5-10 years now. up here in the northeast.
Yep.
The dude's a stud. The dude is legit, and I feel like he's wasting his time with Jensen, and I just want this to be over so that Josh can get his singles push.
Well, for me, I mean, it makes sense for the time being, just because of the fact that you're trying to get more eyes on both of them, and eventually that'll happen. It's awesome that they got a title, because the logjam in NXT for tag teams is just insane right now, especially when you got Briggs and Jensen, pretty deadly. You got the Creeds now and Diamond Mine, if you want to call both of them on the same card now.
Yeah.
You know, you've got, I think,
the Dyad, which is Drizzly Young Veterans.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, is that who it is? Because we don't know.
Yeah. They've made it. I mean, their finisher's still Ticket to Mayhem, by the way. I don't know if anybody's realized it. They're still doing Ticket to Mayhem as their finish. So,
just in a different way, yeah.
But I mean, Gacy said it. You know, you guys were champions, and then you've fallen on hard times, and you were about to go your own separate ways until you fell in line. The last time we saw GYV was on a .com exclusive, where what's his name? Zach Gibson was about to walk away from the tag team as a whole, and they were breaking up. And then all of a sudden they disappeared from television. And then when they were doing the things, and they fit the mold, you know. Yeah. I mean, Gibson's a little bit taller than Drake, so the two of them fit that mold. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was GYV. Astrid called it first, though. I have to give it to her. She called it first.
Yeah. And the other thing is also, you still have El Gato del Fantasma still lurking around. You know, I call, D'Angelo and the other person, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Stacks.
Yeah. You've got the family still happening, and I even pointed out is that I wouldn't be surprised if they have, like, whatever his name, Da Vinci. He used to be the guy from
it's Fabian Eichner, yeah.
Yeah, Eichner. But I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes like the Sicilian mobster they try to make him out to be, and then he literally takes over the family with D'Angelo. That would be an interesting thing, because every Boston mobster had an Italian, Sicilian backer at some point in their life. So it's just there. It seems like they're also trying to get to that trio tag team format faster than AEW is too.
I mean, they are and they aren't. Like right now, D'Angelo's on the shelf. Like unless we're seeing vignettes, we're not seeing Tony for the significant amount of time because he got hurt on the live. Yeah. And now with Two Dimes gone, they're going to need to replace Two Dimes if they're going to bring that back to a 3-man faction. The only real 3-person faction of 3 men that we have left in NXT is, well, we have 2, Joe Gacy and the Dyad, and we have LDF. Vince doesn't care enough about tag titles to make a trios title, so I don't think we're ever going to get that. But he's very spiteful. He is very spiteful, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did it just because. But they'd have to do some major reorganization to really make that work. But this card is loaded. I'm super excited for this.
It's literally probably the better of the 2 cards for over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking at the other card, and it's better. I mean, if you want, we can go ahead and talk about the other show, and then
might as well, considering the fact that we've already gone to our wheelhouse for a while now. So,
and we can keep talking NXT for another 40 minutes. That's not a problem.
Between the 3 of us, since all 3 of us cover it, we could talk about it for 10 hours if we had to.
Probably.
But just one of us would literally have to rotate the conversation half the time because one would be asleep. I mean, Ed, you got to agree on this. There's not enough Dunkin' Donuts in New England to keep us wide awake for doing 10 hours of NXT conversation.
No, I don't think so, but it's close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's late. It's late now, so I mean, I'd have to get a bunch now to do it because all the Dunkins now close at like 7:30.
The one on in Drake on Lakeview and Mammoth Road doesn't. They close at midnight.
Oh, okay.
So at least I'd
around
be
here.
like literally shipping back and forth between your place and mine just to deliver coffee all the time. And Astrist's like, where the hell is mine?
I got a Starbucks a mile away. I can just order and pick it up real quick.
Ah. You say Starbucks, I'm going to end up going to Starbucks for 3 people in this house. But Money in the Bank's coming up also on Saturday. The card's pretty good. Not everybody's saying that it's the best Money in the Bank of all time. It really isn't.
Nope.
You got Seth versus McIntyre, Sheamus, almost. Sami Zayn, Riddle versus somebody else to be determined. That guy who always wins the title is TBD all the time, going all the way for, that.
My money's on vacant.
You can't bet against vacant.
The dude's like a 30-time champion. How can we bet on vacant? Can't even spend against vacant.
Why would you say, dude? They have the women's tag team titles right now.
This is true.
Yeah. Unless it's AJ sneaking in there, it's the only person I could see. I wouldn't mind seeing AJ there, because I don't think they'll pull the trigger to Cody, because if they're really serious on keeping Cody healthy, I think that's something you do at the Rumble, just with the time frame and everything.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I really think if AJ's in it, AJ's going to win. If not, I mean, the only other person I could see in this is McIntyre, right? Because Riddle just came off a chance against Roman, so you're not going to throw him back into the mix. Sammy's overdue. Almost is not ready. Sheamus is overdue. Seth already's had multiple times, and Drew's had multiple times, but the only strong candidate out of those, and like I said, unless AJ's in that mix, because that's way overdue, way overdue, is Drew to only have that briefcase.
So I'm going to throw out 2 out here. One, I'm going to do the obvious one first, and I'll explain that one, and then I'm going to go off the wall a little bit with my second one. So let's talk about Seth Rollins here. Seth Rollins, me and Astrid just did a video on another channel where we were talking about the greatest Money in the Bank matches of all time, and Astrid picked the 2014 Money in the Bank, the one that Seth Rollins won, the one that led to probably the greatest cash-in of the Money in the Bank briefcase of all time, the heist of the century. The WrestleMania heist of the century. Everybody's talking about how do you get these titles off Roman? How do you get it to us at least 1-1, if nothing else? What if Seth wins this thing and we go to SummerSlam, which is already announced as Brock versus Roman, and in the middle of the match, you hear that music hit, Burn It Down starts playing, and outruns Seth Rollins, and he starts another triple threat, and he wins the title by pinning Brock in a triple threat match to steal one of Roman's championships.
Sign me up for that.
That would be interesting.
My off-the-wall opinion. So TBD. The last time we had a TBD in a Money in the Bank ladder match, the match happened for about 30 minutes. You have Mustafa Ali on top of the ladder, about to grab a briefcase, and out comes Brock Lesnar. What if it's Brock again? What if Brock comes out mid-match, wrecks shop, climbs the ladder, and we have Brock Party 2?
Sign me up for that. That was fun. That was interesting to watch.
I mean, he already has the match at SummerSlam, so why give him the Money in the Bank, though?
Because you can have him lose, go away, and then whenever you decide you have to pull the title off Roman, there's Brock ready to go. And think about it. Think about the matches you could do if he just wins a title sometime at, like, say, in Boston at the Survivor Series. You can do Brock versus Rollins again. More importantly, at the Rumble or post-Rumble, you could do Brock versus Cody. You could do Brock versus Riddle.
Oh, give me that. That's one Riddle even said he wants.
What if Riddle wins one of these champions? Like, so say Rollins wins the title and Riddle beats Roman and Riddle beats Rollins, and all of a sudden Brock, who's been sitting at home at the Rumble, cashes in on a beaten Riddle, and they have a 5-10 minute match where Brock just throws him around for a little while, and Riddle gets a little bit of advantage. Like, there are multiple possibilities of some cool things to do with Brock just sitting at home with the Money in the Bank briefcase.
It's also the same thing you could do with AJ. There's multiple people that could do the same thing.
Oh, I agree.
It's just you have to pick the right person, though. I mean, if you want the hole in the wall chance for redemption to go after and break a streak at Survivor Series, why not give it to Cena?
Mm-hmm.
That's one way you could have him in the shadows, and all of a sudden everybody's beaten up. Cena runs up, grabs the briefcase, and there you go at Survivor Series number 17 in Boston for the Universal title instead of the WWE title. Give him his last run, like his hurrah, number 17. There's plenty of people behind him. If Randy comes back, there you go. And if you want to get realistic, Charlotte, who should be at 16, almost 16 now. There's so many of it. It's ridiculous, including the NXTea titles that they retconned stupidly. It's just, she's got more time on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if she gets all the way up past 17, 18, 19. Hell, she's going to be the freaking Celtics of WWE at some point.
Ashley, what about you? What do you think is going to happen here with the men's Money in the Bank?
I kept thinking, I thought they had a match at SmackDown for somebody to qualify, but I would like that Rollins part, because his character's doing so well. He hasn't had a championship in a while, and I would like those mind games with Roman to happen with Rollins instead. And we had that little bit at the Rumble pay-per-view when they had the little match, but I feel like that was just the beginning of it, and I want more from that too. I feel like that was just a little bitty, and I just want more. And I was so excited to see it. Not only like teasing him with the Shield theme song and little things like that. Those are mind games that Rollins is doing. I love them, so I just want more of that.
Now we're gonna go into the next one, the women's Money in the Bank. Lacey Evans, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Raquel Gonzalez. She'll be called Raquel Gonzalez to me, but her real name is Rodriguez. Asuka, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch. Now, as much as Becky's an amazing talent, I'm tired of this David Bowie-esque, Ziggy Stardust, Becky Lynch kind of thing with all these outfits and everything. For me, I think it's time. It's well overdue. Liv needs to shine on this. It's Liv's time. It's Liv's spot. And that way, say, any of the champions, Mandy, for example, we'll throw the NXT since that's our wheelhouse. One of those champions could be having their heads on a swivel. And Liv's time is now. It's way overdue.
Yeah. One thing I don't like, though, is I feel like they keep going back and forth of like whether there's a spot left or not, because before Becky was in there, they tweeted there was 2 spots left. And then they said, obviously, Becky won, so they kept saying, oh, there's 1 more spot left. And then they kind of changed their minds, and they kept tweeting, oh, it's all set now. So it makes me wonder if they will include somebody else before the match starts, because they keep kind of tweeting about it and deleting it somehow. But I want Liv to win it, but I do have a feeling that Lacey's there for a reason. And Lacey has been getting those promos. I know she was back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, but they've been focusing on her a little bit much since her return with the little promos here and there. And it just gives me a feeling that she will probably win it. But I do want Liv Morgan to win it, because it's about time. She's been working so hard lately. And the crowd is so behind her. Like, there's so many. It could have happened a while ago. And the crowd was so excited thinking it would happen, and it didn't. I was really disappointed in that part of it. But, yeah, I would love Liv, but I have a feeling it's Lacey.
I'll throw a name that's not even in it that could be a TBD option if somebody gets out. Let's say somebody beats Shotzi in the back or something like that. Shayna Baszler. If you want a headline, hardcore, brutal match, have Shayna go after Ronda and let that match happen in a fight pit or in a cage or something where they're both extremely comfortable in besides a ring, and let them tear the place down. That will be a main event match, whether it's Survivor Series, whether it's SummerSlam, whether it's Mania. That's a match that would literally just go all. Everybody would just be glued to their freaking TVs or their screens basically and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, I think Shayna Baszler's the match for Ronda come SummerSlam. I think that's exactly where they're headed. I love the idea of Liv Morgan. Remember, it was a year ago that we were all saying, I think Liv Morgan might get it. Like, she's the dark horse to win this. She's now the fan favorite to win this. She kind of was the fan favorite last year too, but everybody was like, maybe she'll win it. Like, I don't think she will, but I want her to. This year, everybody's like, no. We want her to win. She needs to win. I agree. I think Lacey Evans is, if you're looking at it, the obvious choice from a WWE point of view is Lacey Evans. She had a star making program with Charlotte going in the pandemic before she got pregnant. She's come back. They've been dedicated to her. She's put in the work. I mean, she put in the work to make sure she was ready to go from the word go when she got back. And she got back quicker than I really expected her to get back from that. But no, if I had a choice in my own, it would be Liv Morgan. I think Liv absolutely deserves this. Becky is the most overrated women's wrestler that's ever lived in my mind. She is fourth on the totem pole, the four horsewomen. I'm widely known to be Love Wrestling's Becky Lynch despondent. I don't like her. So anytime she gets to lose, I'm happy. But she's also in a mode right now where she wants to put over young stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she took that opportunity over at SummerSlam last year from Bianca Belair, and she knew what she was getting herself into when she did that. So she knew at some point, once she lost that title, it was going to be time to give back. And she gave back by having that great feud with Liv Morgan. She gave back by losing to Bianca Belair and, you know, putting Bianca Belair over since she's lost. The feud with Asuka, she's helping make get Asuka back to where she belongs. More importantly, she put over Dana Brooke. Like, people laugh about it and say it was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she took the time to lose to Dana Brooke to make Dana's career, because that's the biggest win Dana Brooke has ever had, and it's the biggest win she will ever have. And it's just nice to see that Becky. I will say something nice. It's nice to see Becky doing nice things for the women's division. She's trying to help build the women's division so that when she up and leaves in the near future, and trust me, she's getting to that point because she's now a mother, and I guarantee you she's going to want to watch her daughter grow up, and she's not going to want to be on the road all the time. She's not long for this company anymore. So I wholeheartedly think that she's ready to put over everybody and anybody she can in this match.
Well, I mean, she was red hot, and then all of a sudden, life happens. That's the way it is, you know. But I agree, Liv's the person that should be in this spot, should have this spot. The other thing is, and Ronda versus Natty. That's just saying that really, really hurts.
But let's look at this a different way. There are 6 matches on this card. 3 of them are women's matches. There are 6 matches on this card. Half of them are women's matches. And guess what? I guarantee you at 9:30, there won't be a women's match on television. I guarantee you at 9:30, there won't be a women's match on.
Yeah.
You know, unlike some companies, they don't plan their women's match to a specific time frame, even on their pay-per-view. But no, like, but look, getting back to Ronda and Natty. Ronda and Natty's a match that I kind of want to see. I get people crap on Natty. People say that it's, you know, and she is. She's past her prime. She's just there to be a gatekeeper. But you know what she does? She makes sure that women have great matches. She's a solid in-ring competitor. When Sasha Banks and Naomi went home, and right or wrong, we're not getting into discussion about whether it was right or whether it was wrong. Sasha and Naomi chose to go home. And everything changed for Ronda at that point. Because half the summer was going to be Ronda versus Sasha Banks. Mm-hmm. That was the plan for most of the summer, was going to be Ronda versus Sasha. And they chose to go home. And again, right or wrong, that's an entirely different discussion. But WWE had to scramble because they promised Charlotte time off, because she got married to Andrade, because she just wants to relax, because she's been running this division for the past 2 or 3 years with limited time off in that time too. She's been there time in and time out whenever they need her for everything they need. And so she had needed to have some time off. Bayley was still out. Bayley was still hurt. She was the only of the 4 horsewomen who was guaranteed to be there. So it's like she just needs some time to relax. So I'm okay with Ronda versus Natty. On top of it, Ronda and Natty's the one person that Ronda feels most comfortable with in the ring. So this match could actually be pretty good because Natty is the one who helped train Ronda in the WWE style. When Ronda was working to come back again after she had that year-plus layoff, it was Natty who was going up to her farm to wrestle with her and make sure that she was trained right to be ready to come back. This match is probably going to be pretty good. And I mean, why else would we be getting the conversation we're getting on one of Natalia's photos? And I showed it to Astrid the other day based on a Ronda Rousey promo. Ronda Rousey cut a really good promo, and it caused Natalia to put out a certain type of picture. And right, wrong, or indifferent, it's interesting to see that that's being picked up on television.
I mean, for me, I'm not picking on saying it's not going to be a good match. It's just we've already seen something like this once, but it's WWE, and it's like the whole Brock thing back in the day where you knew it was going to be Brock versus this person. No, Brock and versus Ricochet. You already knew Brock was going to win. Ricochet put up a great fight, but you already knew where the outcome was going to be. It's just I'm tired of predictability. I want something unpredictable to happen.
But my question is, and I'll play devil's advocate here. All right, so you take Natalya out of this match. You've already got Lacey, Alexa, Liv, Raquel, Asuka, Shotzi, and Becky booked for the Money in the Bank ladder match. Bianca's taking on Carmella. Zelina Vega's injured.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going to put her in there with? Aaliyah?
Aaliyah got sent to the performance center.
Injured.
Aaliyah's injured back in the PC. Okay, so she's out too. Like, who else is there? Like, other than Shayna, which you're saving for SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Like, theoretically, we're saving in this illogical discussion. We're saving Shayna for SummerSlam. So who else is there?
If you think about it, they're kind of planting seeds about it already because she had like Natty and Ronda posted a video of like telling Shayna like pick a side kind of thing. And it's like, I'm not gonna pick a side, that's my tag team partner, but you're also my friend. So they're already kind of planting seeds about that coming up later. But it's just like you have people because there's also Xia, there's also Zonia, but obviously they're not built up to go against Ronda. That's the issue. But
I'll throw a name in there for you guys to go crazy over. Why not? And you said it earlier, Nikki Bella. We had that match. We had that match at Evolution. It's well overdue, and if they wanted to pull that trigger on that match, it would make sense now because of how far along she is from being in ring, and she could get up there to Ronda's par. And that match they did at Evolution was really good.
Was Nikki Bella the Evolution match, or was Nikki Bella the Super Showdown match?
No, it was the Evolution match.
Okay, I knew that Ronda competed against the Bellas as a tag team in one of those two shows, and I was trying to figure out which one was the.
Yeah, they were a tag team first, and then they went to the Evolution part of it.
Okay, so it was the Super Showdown in Australia, and that was the tag match, and then it was Evolution was the singles. Okay.
Yeah, I remember because of the Bellalution. I can't forget that. So,
like, I mean, I bring up Nikki, but like, I don't want to see Nikki back, and if I do see Nikki back, I just want to see them win those tag titles so they can go away again and never come back. Because I'm not a huge Nikki Bella fan. I'm really not. Brie doesn't want. I don't think Brie really wants to come back. I don't think she ever has. But I think the idea of them winning the tag titles is the only thing that could bring her back, and it's more because that she just wants to do it with her sister.
Yeah, TBD ain't gonna lose those titles.
I don't think anybody's ever seeing those titles again, to be perfectly honest with you. I think those things have been thrown in a bin.
So let's keep going because we'll be wrapping up soon. Theory versus Lashley. You give it to Lashley, man. he's working his tail off. He should deserve it.
Nope.
No, you're building up Theory to go against Cena. Yep.
You've got Theory and Cena coming for.
Mhm.
I pray to God you have Cena versus Theory at SummerSlam.
Mhm.
I think I agree with you. Bobby Lashley is doing some of the best work of his career. I agree with you that he needs to be given something for it. I think that's a match between him and Seth Rollins for the world championship once Seth retakes that title again. I think it's another Bobby run with the world championship late into this year, potentially in those winter months as a champion. Bobby Lashley deserves all kinds of credit, but you cannot take Theory down a peg right now. I think Theory doing a U.S. Open challenge after he wins this match and going right through SummerSlam and just taunting John Cena for the entire month of July to the point where the week before SummerSlam, Cena comes out and says, fine, it's me and you.
Mhm.
Because Cena wants to do it. Cena said it in multiple interviews that if he's coming back, the one person who needs an attitude adjustment is Theory. They made sure they had the Cena versus Theory thing set up and ready to go when Cena came back on Monday. There is not a world in this. I can't see any world where Bobby Lashley wins this United States Championship this weekend.
Mhm. No.
I mean, there was a picture on Facebook, I think, if I can remember, and that there was a picture of Cena with the IC title around his waist.
Yeah, WWE's been floating that one around because they want you to think that he's not going to do the U.S. title thing because everybody knows he's doing the U.S. title thing. But by the way, that match would be great too. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to see Cena versus Walter if I get the chance too, because that would be something fun to watch.
I think it would be one of those things where Gunther would drop the title to Theory, and there, even though it's Wild Theory, haha, pardon the pun, it would literally be one of those things where you can have Cena get the last title that he absolutely needs. Because he's done the Rumble. Yeah, and then the only other title he hasn't had is the one he's never going to get while Roman has it. So, I mean, the Universal one. But for the traditional Grand Slam, the IC title is the one thing he needs.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I love Bobby Lashley and I wish him all the best, but I don't think this weekend is his weekend. They've been putting him over every week. Every week they can, they're making him look like a beast so that Theory can win this match, so that Theory can get to Cena.
Yeah.
And I still think Cena loses that match too, to be honest. I think this is all about Cena putting Theory over and making Theory feel like the next big thing.
Undisputed tag team titles, the Usos versus Profits. It's the Usos. I mean, They're not going to take the belts off of the Usos anytime.
No.
It'll be a fun match. I'm very excited to watch the Street Profits and the Usos have a wrestling match. You're never going to convince me that's a bad idea. But, I mean, yeah, I think, here's the only thing I can think of. If you're going to start crumbling the Roman Empire that we've been running with, at some point the Usos have to lose those titles.
Start with that. Yeah.
And I don't think it's this weekend, but it's you've got to that story has to start sooner rather than later.
Yep.
And I wouldn't mind if it was the Street Profits taking those tag titles. I don't think it's going to be. I agree, it's the Usos, but
also I'm going to throw a name out for TBD. Also, he's got no neck brace. He's all happy and joyful. Big E winning the briefcase.
that would be nice. That would be,
and then you could just have him pop one off of Roman and just, he picks the belt that he wants the most. So, I mean, it would be pretty interesting and put Roman in a predicament. I think Roman being in a dangerous spot is the best part because he's like that mob boss that loses his touch a little bit. But then all of a sudden he gains his stroke and everybody's afraid of him. Like when he doesn't have those titles, imagine how dangerous Roman's going to be.
Roman will be dangerous when Roman starts showing up again. But, limited date contracts, That's what it is. Like people are sitting here going, why is the story changed? Why is Roman Reigns not there anymore? Roman signed a new deal. The new deal has less dates. They can't work them the same way they were. It was the problem with putting 2 belts on him while he was in the middle of contract negotiations.
Well, I mean, now he's Brock. Simple as that. But we're gonna end up. I gotta get into work tomorrow. I know everybody has their own gigs and stuff out here. As
Can we
for
also
tell me,
say, I can't wait for Bianca to retain her title too, because that's the other match on the card.
yeah, I just skipped that purposely because Bianca's already gonna win that regardless.
I mean, I know Leah's a Boston girl, and we love Carmella. She's fantastic. You know, New England cheerleader and everything else. But yeah, no, she's losing.
Other than that, ask her, tell them where they can find you.
Usually on my Twitter, Astro Pizarro, like it's there. But I'm usually on Tuesdays with NXT with Ed, and then I do All Elite Sidecast on Wednesdays with JBJ and Plago. And weekends I write for Women's Wrestling Talk. I have the NXT 2.0 and NXT UK review that I put up with them.
All right, my friend. You know what to do.
You can find me here, Ed Fries 12584. You can catch me and Astrid, as she said, on NXT at Love Wrestling every Tuesday night. This week, on Friday, you can go ahead and catch me and Astrid on the SCW Wrestling channel. We're going to be going ahead and once again previewing NXT's Great American Bash. We are in high demand this week for that show. So we're going to be going ahead and doing that tomorrow night at 6 p.m. So you can go ahead and catch us for that. You can also catch me and Parrish. I don't know when it's going live. I know when we're recording the show. So you can go ahead and catch us this Saturday as we predict Money in the Bank as well. So if you want to get my in-depth thoughts on each match with Parrish, you can go ahead and catch that on Love Wrestling this weekend on Saturday ahead of Money in the Bank.
Yep, and I'll be at Body Slam's channel also doing NXT coverage. Got a little bug behind me. Also, coming every Thursday night here, Wicked Crazy Pinfalls on a Thursday night. We've been off a little bit because of life's been a little crazy and stuff. Wicked crazy as we are from New England as it goes. But other than that, just got so much stuff going on. I'm going to be recording with Rob Wilkins eventually we're going to do a review on pretty much in our wheelhouse for the three of us. NXT Brooklyn, the Sasha and Bailey match is part of it. We're going to just have so much fun, 38 days until I'm on leave. So it'll be a lot more fun when the baby's here and stuff. So I'm going to end it on a positive note. Do a good deed, pay it forward. Drew, we're thinking about you, man. We love you, bud. All right? Bye.
Big up to the head of the table.